All right, so this one is about Patreon, which I would like to term as a subversion of something that's very sacred, um, and has been kind of heralded as this like great thing for artists and creators of all kinds, but is actually just fundamentally destroying two very important things that artists traditionally have access to. Um, and everybody knows I've beef with Patreon as an entity. I've been talking about this for years. This is nothing new, but maybe you haven't heard me talk about it. And so this video is for you, person who hasn't heard me talk about it. Um, so basically, Patreon, uh, obviously, the name derives from patron, um, somebody patronizing the arts, not patronizing as in the negative connotation, obviously, but somebody being a patron of the arts. Um, supporting an artist, helping an artist have money and be able to do cool art, when because the market behaves in various ways that aren't necessarily thinking about what's valuable and what needs to exist. If we all created what was monetarily successful, that would be a hellscape, right? Because really monetarily successful is just thinking uh, in the moment and about what people want. The artist's job is to really listen to the muse, whether you believe that's an actual entity that you're tapping into psychically or it's some deep part of yourself that has nothing to do with scheming towards making money. It's just you're doing something for the pure value of it, a higher value than a price tag, really. Yes, paintings sell for millions of dollars, but that's a whole other thing. That's a lot of times it's a laundering thing. Yes, there are very valuable paintings that deserve to be valuable, but the point is, most often, if you're making something artistically, it should be an honest, pure act. So that's why patrons exist. It's an acknowledgement of the fact that the market in its infinite wisdom is not wise enough or rather is not, wise is the wrong word, but is not, sufficient towards protecting artists. Sorry, I just got to plug in my computes. Um, so basically, say this is the plug. I got to plug it in. All right. So basically, now we know what Patreon is getting its whole thing from patronage. Great. Okay. So what is patronage? Patronage isn't what Patreon actually is. So like Patreon is you're providing a specific value for the money that you're receiving. So like whether it's $1 a month or $5 a month, usually it's like if you have a podcast, it's like an extra episode or some access. You're getting something. The whole idea is that you're rewarding the money that's coming in. When actual patronage is with no reward, it's a donation. It's literally a donation. Actual patronage, whether you're a rich person or you're just somebody walking down the street, uh, is just giving money to an artist for nothing. If you're commissioning a work, that's not necessarily patronage, um, unless you're strategically doing it in a way where it's a donation or something. But the point is, like, that's taxable income if it's not a donation. You know, anybody can give money to anybody else that they want to, and that's not taxable because that's a donation. You're just giving. And yes, I know there's tax geniuses that will be like, actually, technically, yes, you're right, but in this 0.01% scenario, it doesn't actually fit. But the point is, generally, You always have to, it's so funny. You talk about anything, you always have to like, for the uber nerds, you have to like preface it with like, this is true 99.9% of the time or higher. Um, because nothing is always like 100%. Anyway, the point is, so Patreon is a subversion of that whole thing. This isn't debate. This isn't, there's no opposing thing. You're taking a concept and you're changing it drastically. Um, because taxable income is something that an artist would technically want to keep as low as possible. Let's make the taxable income just be the barista job or whatever it may be. Let's keep that low. Um, and Patreon says, "Hey, we're bringing back patronage, but it's gonna be taxable." And it's like, what, dude? I'm like, no. So, but that's not what it was banked on. I'll get to what it was banked on later. But anyway, so that's like fucked up because really patronage is just donation. It's just, here, I'm buying you a cup of coffee, or hey, you're playing guitar on the city square and I like what you're playing. Here's $1, here, whatever. That's patronage. Or you really like somebody's work and you're like, here's $10,000, just exist. You're great. You're awesome. That's patronage in a nutshell. If you didn't know that, great, you learned that. If you did know that, nice refresher. But the point is that Patreon has already subverted that concept. What else is Patreon subverted? It's you're basically, when you have a Patreon page, you're being overcharged for literally a web page. So I'm an old chunk of coal, as the Norm Macdonald saying goes. So I remember people used to have these things called websites and web pages. You pay maybe $20, $30 a month, a year. Sorry, not a month, a year. And you just have somewhere where you can put up your shit, right? It was a beautiful thing. Then it became social media world. Maybe a lot of people have forgotten that you can just do that. You can just have a website really easily. Yeah. So a lot of people, they have like a link tree now, just linking to various social media, maybe their Patreon as well. But the point is, like, what is a Patreon page? Patreon page is no more complex than somebody could build on their own for themselves. Anything that you like about having a Patreon page, you can build by yourself with WordPress or any other thing. Like, you don't even need to know how to code. You could probably do it with Shopify. You could probably do it with various different things by yourself. Now, the best way to think about the fee that Patreon takes from what people are giving you as far as support in exchange for their bonus content or whatever, is this is a expensive, overpriced webpage. So, when let's say you make $5,000 a month on Patreon, that's fucking great. Awesome. $5,000 a month. Holy shit. $600, $700 out of that is going to be going to Patreon. That's a hefty cut, my brother. That is, more than 7,000. That's like 9,000 a year for a web page. Not in this economy. Not in my house. A web page, my brother, should be hundreds of dollars, not thousands of dollars. Yeah. So basically, the pitch of Patreon and the brilliance of Patreon and the evil of Patreon is, we're going to destroy the concept of patronage, turning it into this highly taxable thing. And we're going to take we're going to basically overcharge for web pages, take a massive cut there of any money that comes in. And that's how we're being paid for the web page service that we're offering. How did they get away with this? Millions of dollars. They spent millions of dollars drilling it into public consciousness that Patreon is a good thing. Patreon is the way, the only way. It's the most trusted way. All to get away with overcharging for webpage and completely subverting patronage as a concept. So anybody, even if they don't want to add bonus shit, you know, can make a website with a donation button um, very, very cheaply, very, very easily. And the idea of people being afraid to do that is something that Patreon has kind of implied and created as a myth, you know. Um, I remember so many websites, people very successful had donation buttons, made decent money from that. So quickly we forget when we have it drilled into our head that uh, nothing ever existed except the present fleeting moment. So, you know, I want you to understand this is like the third thing that's like really important. Um, the reputation that Patreon has never been earned. It's never been actually earned piecemeal over time. This is all part of this halo effect of um, tech and websites and services and all these things where they basically um, very quickly become associated with a concept. And by their association, people overrate the importance and the value and the purity to a certain extent of what's going on. Kind of like with plant based, there are halo effect words, free range. These are buzzwords. Um, and the goal is basically you buy your way into being a buzzword if you're a company, if you're Patreon, and then you're golden, pony boy. Um, to the point that people forget, you know, people become uneducated. This is always to uneducate people. This is never to actually educate people. Um, it's always to make people dumber. So people forget about donation pages. People forget that you can just set up your own website and do everything that Patreon does. And by that, I mean, you literally just make a Stripe account and you set up anything that you want people to pay for, whether it be a subscription service or some one off or whatever it is. Like anybody can do that. Anybody can have both a website and a Stripe account. That's what I have. Do I take in a lot of money? No. Is that entirely Patreon's fault? No. But Patreon has helped erase the idea of that in the public consciousness. So Patreon is definitely to blame. Patreon spent millions of dollars doing that. Of course, they're to blame. Um, so yeah, look, this is something that's riding on the backs of artists. Patreon creates nothing. Patreon creates misinformation and disinformation. Remember, people were talking about those things. No, it's funny. They only talk about it in the context of politics. Isn't that funny? They only talk about it in that regard. They don't really talk about it in regards to business. Look, I don't hate capitalism. I don't hate the free market, but I know that business is shady. Um, yeah, misinformation, disinformation is not only in the realm of politics and news. Misinformation, disinformation is big time in business. I was watching a commercial. I was flipping through the TV literally last night, and it said it was like something about like getting sticky stuff, like residue off of things, and it was like you know, some spray or whatever. And they said in this ad, they said, and it pays for itself the first time you use it. And I was like, what are you talking? First of all, you don't know what I'm using it on. How are you? What the fuck are you talking about? 35. It was like $35 plus shipping and handling or something. It's like it's just to get like sticker residue off of things. It's just like a spray or something. It just melts like goop. It pays for itself the first time you use it? What the fuck, dude? That's the stupidest concept. Like, I get that there are products that do pay for themselves the first time you use it. That's not one of them. That would never be one of them. Oh, so I got, like, the sticker off of, like, a book or something, and what are you talking about? Anyway, I just thought that was crazy, but one of many examples of business lying. Obviously bigger entities than just some infomercial, sure. But yeah, Patreon. So what does Patreon do? Patreon lies, and Patreon lies. Everything I've just told you, that's what Patreon does. And this is the trusted source for supporting the arts or whatever, right? All right. Yeah, I just wanted to lay that out there. So basically, yeah, if you are an artist and you're a creator, it's more of an uphill battle to get somebody to um buy your little bonus whatever or support you with donations, whatever you want to do on your own website on your own terms. Um because Patreon has constructed this narrative that, like, A, that's untrustworthy, B, that's you need to pay your share of taxes or whatever. I don't know. But the point is it's just like it's just so fucked, dude. Um I hate it. Hate Patreon. Now, you may love using Patreon. You may love using it as a creator or as supporting creators. All well and good. If you are happy and you know it, clap your hands. I um, but you gotta know what these things are, dude. Like, if you eat at McDonald's, you gotta know what McDonald's is. Uh, whatever you're consuming, whatever you're doing, just like know what it is. Don't get in your head that, like, it's pure and it's good and it makes sense and it's making the world a better place and all this stuff. Like, just know what it is. You know, it's this is very much a kill the messenger thing, and this is very much a don't tell me how the sausage is made thing. But, like, somebody's got to say it. I've been saying it for years. I am no closer to getting people to realize it on any level. Maybe individually, I think I've gotten some people to realize it. Um, but yeah, it's just what is it? It's an overpriced webpage. Nobody in their right mind would pay, like, the amount that it comes out to for a website from what Patreon is taking as their cut. That's, like, insane. Um, yeah, dude. And especially in a climate where you need a web page less and less, right? A lot of people argue they don't even need a website anymore. Uh, Strange world. But basically, like, the lesson of this, you buy your credibility. You buy it. That's the reality of the world, man. I can be right, but being right doesn't immediately upgrade everybody's system. Like, nobody updates to factual correctness. It's a slow climb if it ever gets there. Whereas lies, what is it? It's like the lies spread. There's some quote about lies spread quickly and the truth spreads slowly or whatever. Welcome to business. Patreon, I'm impressed with what you've done. I find it diabolical. Um, that's the world. Anyway, I say this as somebody who gives, like, one of my friends $1 a month on Patreon just so I can see his little extra updates, and I think I do it for, like, 1 or 2 other people as well. You know, I've pissed at McDonald's as well, so, what are you gonna do? Anyway, Patreon sucks. Lesson. See ya. Hope this made sense. If anything didn't, I'll add it in the comments, or if you wanna ask me questions, just comment, whatever. I think people watch these less and less, but I like doing them because I like saying very true things in a delivery system that's not what people are used to. This is kind of a throwback, this webcam shit. This is more old school because I'm using my phone as a microphone here. But yeah, thank you. See ya.